Right before we jump into this video, if you'd like me to send you a free guide to capturing motion in low light situations, just look for this orange box over on the website, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I'll send you that guide for free. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Sony 70-200 2.8 G Master version 2. That's right, this is an all-new designed lens that replaces the 70-200 2.8 G Master version 1 now that was 5.5 years old. That lens was initially announced and released at the same time as the 24-70 2.8 G Master. Yeah, not my favorite lens, the 70-200. I had some issues with mine, and I know people who had issues with theirs, so it's nice that they finally replaced it and given us a version 2. Now, before we get into the outside of the lens and the specs and the sample images, what did I photograph? I went out to the Philadelphia Union game to sit on the sidelines to test out the 70-200 2.8 G Master version 2 on the Sony A1. So I used the A1 because I want to take advantage of that 30 frames a second to see if this lens can handle 30 frames a second. The other camera that we have here for show is the Sony A9 II, which I no longer use because my go-to camera is the A1. And the second thing that I was able to photograph was the Philadelphia Flyers during a preseason game, because thankfully I was able to get a photo hole thanks to Bruce Bennett, aka the Einstein of photography, aka King Cropper himself. Because Getty wasn't covering the game, I made a call and I was able to use that photo hole for 3 periods, which is all I could ever ask for a 70-200 to test it out. So now let's look at the outside of the lens and show you what is different. We'll start right here with the lens hood. This is the lens hood. You now have a rubberized end to the lens hood, which is nice. It's rubber. It maybe acts as an eraser, but it's not the pedal design. Let me show you the pedal design real quick on the old lens. This is the old lens. This is that pedal design. You stand it up, it's kind of on there a little awkwardly, it wobbles. You know that song? Wobble baby, wobble baby, wobble baby, wobble baby, wobble baby, wobble baby. I'm doing the wobble. Look, I'm doing the wobble, wobble. It's such a good song. I love the wobble. We'll bring this back up in just a second to show you some comparisons, but new lens hood is much better because now you can just do this, boom, put it right there. You still have this door in the front of it. If I could reach it, there's the door in the front of it. That's so that you can control an ND filter, maybe one of those Peter McKinnon variable ND filters that you could put right there. On the side of the lens, you have an AF to manual switch. You have a full-time DMF, which is the digital autofocus to manual focus override. I leave that off. You have the full and focus limiter, OSS, you have on and off. There's a million switches on here, mode 1, 2, and 3. You also have an iris lock right here because there is a new dial right here to control a smooth iris, where you can lock it in with the A right here, but still get to change it, or you could use the lock on the side right here and do that. Oh, and all the way on the other side of the lens is a click or declick. So you can declick or click your aperture. That's more for someone who is shooting video, and that's why they added this iris feature. It may not be something that I personally will use because I'm mostly shooting photos, but they say that you can go from like 2.8 all the way to 22 while shooting video and have control of that if that's something that you want to do. So yeah, continuing around the outside of the lens where the G Master logo is, you've got a button, flip it around, another button, another G Master logo, another button, and so what's that? How many buttons? That's 3 buttons. And what I'll tell you is I accidentally hit one of these buttons while I was photographing, and I thought that it locked up my camera. But what it did is it stopped autofocusing when my finger was accidentally touching this button. So I'll probably deactivate this in my A1 so that this button doesn't do anything, because I don't like that it does anything. What I do like is that the zoom ring is closer to the bottom of the lens, unlike the Nikon. Speaking of the Nikon, we've got this behemoth of a lens right here. I have to take the lens hood off to show you this. Check this out. But as I've always said, this zooms out at the end. I don't like the balance of that. I don't like how it extends my hand out further on the lens to do it like this. I feel that it's less stable, whereas the Sony is a hell of a lot more stable when you are zooming. It also is a really short throw. What I mean by short throw is I'm just sitting here with my thumb and that's it. I'm running through the entire range with my thumb. That's 200, that's 70. The reason I bring that up is because the Canon version right here, let's see if I can even use my thumb. Is there a way to loosen this? There is no way to loosen this one. This one is super tight. Look at this. I can't even use just my thumb to turn it, and you have to turn it extra far. I like the fact that I can just dial it with my thumb. I can't dial it with my thumb. Steven, there is no loosening switch on this one, right?
No.
No, there isn't. There's a lock switch. God, I don't like this just for that. And that is the sound of the Canon money truck backing away, but it's true. The fact that I can sit here and throw it with my thumb and not have to double clutch it like this and turn it far is a big win for this lens. Another big win for this lens is its weight. Oh my God, is this thing a brick? This thing is super heavy. This is the older one. This is the newer one. It's like 30% lighter. In fact, let me read you the exact weight. This is 2.3 pounds. This is 3.2 pounds. Now, for those of you people playing overseas, that's 1,045 grams versus 1,480 grams. That is a major difference. I wouldn't carry this around, one, because I didn't like the autofocus capability, and two, it was so damn heavy in my bag that I opted not to take it. This one is so much lighter, it's much better balanced in your hands, and it is just an all-around, fantastically well done, redesigned lens. Now, how do you tell the difference between version 1 and version 2? Well, that's the lens hood. You can tell from that. You can see that you have the iris ring, but also right here, can you see that, Steven? Yep. You see the Roman numeral 2? That means it's version 2. The funny thing is, when I was out shooting this and no one knew that I had it, I sat next to a bunch of Sony shooters while shooting soccer and nobody noticed, thankfully. I don't want to end up on a rumor site that is rarely correct, but sometimes ends up with my photo. I don't want that to happen, but it's good that it didn't. Let me jump in here real quick because I want to show you this image taken with the 70-200 2.8 version 2 and edited using FroPak 3 starting with Zoolander. Now that's what Zoolander makes it look like, but if you're looking to be more realistic because it's a sports photo, generally you don't want to get too creative with the colors. We've got something like Prestige Worldwide, which works out really, really well. And then if you want to get really creative, we got something like Fifth Element right here. It still gives it a unique look, and that's what the presets are all about. But I personally went up to FroPak 1 and used something called Skittles. Now that's where Skittles started, and this is why I always say presets give you a great starting point because you can pull back on them, you can then make some tweaks to the way that you like them, and then resave them to your taste. And so if you're looking to speed up your raw workflow or give yourself a great starting point, we created 15 all new custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at FroKnowsPhoto.com/FroPak3. While you're over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters. And if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Or if you want to get the triple play bundle with FroPak 1, 2, and 3, when one includes Skittles, you can save even more. Now, let's get back to the video. There are 4 linear motors inside of this lens that are working that is supposedly supposed to help you get faster focusing and faster tracking, especially while zooming. Now, I didn't have any problems using this lens. In fact, I tested it out to see if I could get 30 frames a second with the A1, because there is talk out there that you can't get 30 frames a second with the A1, and well, that's kind of hogwash. Or bullshit, to put it more bluntly. So I took a sequence of images. I took way more than 30 just to test it out, but I want to show you a sequence of 30 that breaks down into 1 second. Actually, it's 29 across 1 second. We look at the timestamp and we see where it goes to the next second, and the 30th image went to the next second. So it's possible that those 30 happened in the exact same second because you don't know where that beginner timer ended up going, but we've got 29 of these frames in a row working in sequence. There is one of them that clearly missed focus. So that means 28 of those 29 are in focus. And the thing is, usually if you miss one and it's totally out, the next couple are out of focus, but in this case, that one is out and then it's right back in for the next one. So yes, the A1's capable of shooting at 30 frames a second and doing it, and yeah, you can do it with this new G Master lens. I do need to tell you though, you need to put it into compressed RAW in order to get 30 frames a second, and you need to be in the high plus mode in order to do that. Now, I know some of you may be curious or wondering, how does this compare to the Nikon and how does it compare to the Canon? I gave a reach around, I might as well bring it out. And how does it do this? Well, I will tell you that during our discussion with Sony, they like to tell us that this Sony lens was better than the Canon version. Except for the fact the samples that they were telling us about were shot with a 1DX Mark III and a 70-200 2.8. Now, we don't know, was it version 1? Was it version 2? Was it version 3? And why didn't you do the comparison with the R5 and the RF 70-200 2.8? I get why you didn't use an R3 because that didn't exist yet, but I do want to let you know that you may hear other reviewers talk about certain things that Sony tells us during a call. Now, I do not want to just throw Sony under the bus here because Nikon does the same thing and Canon does the same thing. Everybody does the same thing where they talk about comparing it to other cameras. But you just have to know that you need to test it out yourself because you're not in control of the situations that they're in, and we're in the real world here trying to test it out. They're not going to sit there and give us information if the Canon did better or the Nikon did better. In fact, there's a close focusing thing where if you're zoomed out to 200 millimeters, the Canon will focus closer at 200 versus this one at 200. It's a Sony truck leaving, and it's a Canon truck coming right back. So sometimes they make a big deal and they tell us about something being great, and other times they bury the little information in the bottom with 1, 2, or 3 different asterisks. I just think it's important to share that information with you that we need to do our own tests, and that's why we don't just regurgitate information that any of the companies are giving us. My favorite thing is how many aperture blades we have. We got 11 blades. Good, fine. It's better than 1 blade. It's better than 9 blades. Probably gives you a nice, super nice bokeh. Let's jump into these pictures now. We've got right here, we're gonna start with the soccer game. We've got these guys that were holding the flag. Generally speaking, you don't take a 70-200 to a soccer game unless you've got 2 bodies and you work with it. In this case, it's all I had to work with, and I did. So focus was lightning quick. The IAF and the face detection, obviously it's fantastic in the Sony A1. It's gonna be fantastic in the A9 II as well. The colors, the tones, everything that you expect from this lens, you're gonna realize it's fantastic. It's balanced better in the hands than the old one. They talked about the center of gravity, and you can feel the difference between both of them, that it is more balanced with the new one. I mean, just the fact that it's lighter and it's faster means that this is already a really good lens. Continuing on with more soccer shots. Ooh, he's getting a reach around. He's like, ooh, I'm grabbing your boobie. He's like, ooh, purple nurple. That's a purple nurple, right, Steven? Yeah, purple nurple. He's trying to give him a purple nurple. But yeah, look at the background. You've got great separation here. He's reaching around to give him a purple nurple, but everything about this is fantastic. Let's go to the next shot. This is the shot that you get from where I was sitting in the corner. You get a lot of action in front of the net or in that 18 box, whatever the hell it's called. I used to play soccer, don't worry about it, or football or footy for all you people overseas. We call it soccer here, all right? I played. I was okay. I was a left wing because I'm left-footed. But anyway, this is what you're looking for. You want the players that are down there. You got the other guy jumping. You got the ball coming in. He's about to head it. And it's sharp, and it's accurate, and it works. This is one of those things where you don't know where action's going to happen in sports all the time. So I was focused in on the goalie, and I just reacted to take the picture and was rewarded because I was shooting 30 frames a second compressed. I was rewarded with being able to pick this particular frame where he is completely off the ground making a diving save as the other players are watching what he's doing. Another action shot in front of the net. We've got the ball. You can see it's kind of lost in the background, but if you saw this on a big screen, it would look a heck of a lot better. Or if you're a cropper, you're probably cropping in because that's what a lot of the sports photographers do. And if you're wondering why do the pictures look so good in terms of color and tone, that's because I shot RAW and I processed the RAW file, whereas a lot of sports shooters, they have to get stuff out there quickly. They all shoot in JPEG and then quickly tweak the JPEG. It just doesn't look as good. So if you can take the extra time and shoot RAW and get the time to edit it, you're gonna be rewarded with much better final products that I think are gonna pop off the page or pop off the screen that I think people are going to recognize. Continuing on, we have a shot of the goalie shot through the net. So a lot of the time, again, with soccer and sports, you don't know where stuff's gonna happen. You have to anticipate and try to lock on. This case, I was able to lock in on the goalie, and it didn't focus in on the net, which is good. I'd like to say that it was my skill, but thankfully the camera did it right. It tracked the goalie even through the netting, and that's why I'm showing you this, as he caught the ball before it went into the goal. Pretty good goalie. I hear he works, shoots for the national team, not shoots for, is the goaltender for the U.S. national team. In the next shot, he is waving to the crowd because he just kicked the ball like 30 rows up and wanted to make sure everybody was okay, which is kind of nice, even though the Philly faithful fans were yelling and telling him that he sucks, because that's what Philly fans like to do. They're like, you suck! And then I'm like, you're fat and you hold a beer and you'll never play soccer and you should probably shut up a little bit up there. I mean, that's kind of true. I don't say that because there's no reason to, but yeah, you know, there's the people that sit in the stands that have never played a sport or aren't capable. They like to yell. And so if you ever come to Philly and sit in the stands with an opposing jersey on, it's all right to cheer, but don't be an idiot. If you're an idiot, Gritty's gonna come and get you. And by Gritty, I mean like that bro 4 rows behind you is gonna trip and fall down and then land on you and then spill his beer on you and then try to start to punch you. Because that's what's gonna happen. And for the next shot, this is where the only goal of the game was scored. There was a crossing play, the guy kicked it, you could see right here the goalie diving and the ball crossing the line, and I got the best shot ever. But let's zoom in on the post. Oh, the post is in focus. That's a good thing to have in focus right here, Jared. Especially when here is the subject. He's the guy who kicked it. He's out of focus. You would ideally want to focus on him. I don't think there was going to be any way that I would have been able to track him unless I knew that this particular guy was going to go over here and score. So I was focused in on the goalie, and unfortunately it slipped and focused in on the net, and that's bound to happen. Doesn't matter what kind of gear you have. If you miss, you miss. In this case, I ended up missing, but that's the type of shot you can get from this angle. Now, before we jump to the hockey game, I want to talk about focus breathing, because that's another thing that Sony claims is better in this lens versus the old one when it comes to video, and we have a test right here that Steven's running. So here you're seeing the old one versus the new one, and you can clearly see that there is a difference. All right, now to my favorite thing to shoot, and it's not my favorite thing to shoot anymore, is ice hockey. I had a photo hole. Talk about a challenging thing to shoot. If you can shoot ice hockey and do a good job with it, I think you can shoot basically anything in the world, because hockey is difficult. I kind of struggled for the first period, but found my way in the second and third period and was much happier with the results. 70 to 200 is a great range if you can shoot through the hole. Generally, I always use a lens hood, except for when I'm shooting at a photo hole. The last thing I want to have happen is a lens hood fall off and end up on the ice and I create some kind of issue. I don't want to do that, so I don't use the lens hood in that situation. As we zoom in here, focus tracking, fantastic. Locks on the subject very, very well. Let me jump in here real quick and say, would you like to purchase this lens or any other camera gear for that matter? Well, if so, I've got some affiliate links down below that help support me on this channel, as well as a local store named Allen's Camera. They are a mom and pop store that's been around for a long time. I support them. They've been helping me out, and you can help out a local store if you'd like, or there are other affiliate links as well. Now we move on to game action. Love this. Able to lock on this subject and track him. You wouldn't expect anything otherwise, except if you're using the old 70 to 200. In that case, it probably would have back focused and not been very good. But so far, so good with everything like this. And this right here, this is Gritty. You do not mess with Gritty, but you get a photo of Gritty, which is what I have right here. The reason I'm showing you this shot all the way down the ice, I'm zoomed out to 200 millimeters. King Cropper, Bruce Bennett, is probably using a 28 to 300 Canon and reaching out to the other side of the ice from this spot, which is probably pretty good, and then cropping with his R5. Now, I have 50 megapixels to work with. I could crop this if I wanted, if there was some awesome action in front of the net. So that's why I wanted to show you what 200 looks like down at the other way. But it's also important to say that you can take a teleconverter with this lens, a 1.4 and a 2x, whereas with the Canon, you cannot put on the 1.4 or the 2x teleconverter. The Nikon, you can use their teleconverters with the 70 to 200. I personally, not using a teleconverter, but I guess if that's all you have and you want to travel light and you want to throw a teleconverter on there, by all means, that's up to you. There's plenty of light inside of the stadium to make that happen. I was lucky enough to have a fight break out right in front of me. That doesn't happen often. The ref kind of boned a few of my shots because he got in my way. But right here, let's zoom in. We've got this guy. He did a right cross, it looks like. I think he missed. But at some point, he might have caught this guy on the nose because his nose is breathing. Breathing, yes, I hope his nose is breathing. It's bleeding. That's the red stuff that's coming out of the bridge of his nose. And the next shot is the other guy missing with a wild shot while it's still focused on the Flyers guy in the foreground. All right, just two more images before we wrap this up. You want to look for action in front of the net, not just super tight shots. I did the super tight shots of the guys on the face-off circle, the face-off dot going in. That's easy to do. You might as well get it because it's easy, but you want to find this action in front of the net. So I'm focused on the goalie a lot of the times because that's what I can control. You can't sit there and try to watch everything and then try to get through this little photo hole, which is only this big, and find the right angle. So I focus on the goalie. This is great because he just blocked the puck. You can see it's frozen right there in time. There's no issue with the readout speed and the warping. I didn't have any issues with the Sony at all. It's just such a fast readout speed. But that's an action shot that you get. And the last one, another winning shot, just like the Union game where the soccer player was shooting it into the goal from the same spot. Check it out. I'm focused on not him. I mean, it happened so fast that the puck, the pass goes right to him. He one-times it. You can see I'm focused on the goalie missing it, and the puck is right there going into the net. And at 30 frames a second, it kind of looks cool to watch the puck hit the back of the net and then bounce down because you're basically shooting video. That's how insane it is when you're shooting at 30 frames per second. So how much is this bad boy? Well, it's $2,799, which is very similar to what Canon and Nikon are selling theirs for. Even if it was $500 less, I would not buy the old Sony lens versus the new one. Now, if you can dump the old one, I would highly recommend as a pro that you dump it. If you're happy with what you've got and you're not a full-time pro and it's working, then don't dump it. But you should be able to get money out of it for someone else, and if you can afford it, go with this bad boy. Let's give it a sniff test and a wind tunnel test. We'll start with the sniff test. Oh. Steven, you know what it smells like?
What?
Roy Kent's eyebrows. Roy Kent. That Roy Kent right there, he's got great eyebrows. All right, wind tunnel test. Oh boy. Because it's so much lighter, let's see if it blows away. It wobbled. It really didn't wobble, but I just wanted to tell you that it failed the wind tunnel test today. So if you were waiting to see if it passed the wind tunnel, it failed because it's so much lighter. It didn't move. It didn't move. I'm just letting you know that this highly scientific wind tunnel test, I've done a lot of research into how to do it right, and it failed it this time. Where it doesn't fail is that it's going to find a way into my bag. This 70-200 will be back in my bag because I can rely on it. It's sharp, it's colorful, it's light, easier to carry around. The focus is incredibly fast. It pairs with the A1 extremely well. This passes with flying colors and may be one of my favorite 70-200s. I like it better than the Canon just for the fact that it's just a quicker throw. I just love that. The Canon, I wish it was internal zooming, which it's not. Maybe they come out with a version 2. I will trade off the smaller and lighter, more compact version for something just like this. So mad props to Sony on this bad boy. You did a great job coming out with this. That's where I'm going to leave it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Jared, PolinFroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. Jamie tart 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 to tart to tart. Jamie tart 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 to tart to tart. Jamie tart 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 to tart to tart. Jamie tart. I'm Roy Kent and I play for the footy team. Ah, f*** off. I'm Trent Grimm for The Independent. You know, practice? You don't want to come to practice? We're talking about practice, man. Practice. Roy Kent, oi, f*** you. Ah, f***.